Hi everybody. They're telling me that today is going to be the hottest day on record, so it seems a very good time to start my first Christmas project. So I'm going to make a light up Christmas cube, which can be a lovely Christmas decoration and a potential present that is quite simply made. And using A4 card, I'm using 250 grams per square metre bright white card, and I've taken a strip and I've made it 27 centimetres long, and I've scored it twice at 9 centimetre intervals. So I'm going to be making a 9 centimetre cube. So that's going to form my outside bit. Then I've got 4 cards cut out with the same 250 grams per square metre bright white card, and these are 9 centimetres deep by 11 centimetres across, and I've scored each one 1 centimetre from the edge, and these are going to form the seam panels. You can use an LED tea light inside, and I'm planning on getting some of the ones that have an automatic timer, so they'll come on every night, so they can be very pretty Christmas decorations during the day and then lovely lights in the evening. So it's quite simple. All I need is a few dies. I've got a rectangle which I will be cutting out the back panel, and across that will be flying Father Christmas and his sleigh. So I've got a Brittannia Christmas flight die which I'll be using. Then I'm going to be using this Edgeables die, and I'm going to show you how to use it using partial die cutting, and it'll make both the front panel and the second panel. And then behind that I'm going to have this Marianne's die, village die, which I'm going to be using to complete the scene. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is the front panel, and so I've got first one just on my big shot here, and I'm just using the base plate and the precision plate because I'm going to be partially die cutting. I'm using this Edgeables die, and I just want to get this big snowman and some trees in the front panel, and I do not want all of it, and I don't want it to cut right across. So the way to do that is to line it up. I want it fairly low, I don't want the whole thing. And then I'm going to just tape it in place with a little bit of low tack tape. Now, I just want to cut out the snowman, which means I only need to come to about the edge of this gap here. And so I use card stacks, and I make them out of old birthday and Christmas cards. It's difficult to know how many to stack up. I usually stick them in groups of 3. This is a little square that I made for another project, and it works really well for this because I just want to come to that edge. I'm going to line it up. Anything that the card doesn't cover is not going to cut. I usually stick the bottom one in place because it's very easy for them to slide about otherwise. And then those are 3 cards stuck together. I've got another 3 cards stuck together, which I place on top. And then I suspect I'm going to need a little more. And once you're clear, it doesn't matter what your shape is, it's just a question of covering. So I've got a rectangle here that's about the right size, and I'll place that on top again. And when you think you've probably got enough, that's the time to put your top plate on and give it a whirl. Now, I've got quite an old plate here, it's quite bent, but that's actually ideal because it slots over the top and isn't going to press on it until it goes through. And the only way that you can tell whether you've got enough is to try it and see. So you take that through your big shot, and if there's quite a bit of pressure, then it probably is going to cut. I reckon that is going to need one more card. It was just a little bit lacking resistance. So I'll redo my card stack, and I will see if another single card will do the job. And again, I'll just run it through my big shot, and if I've got a reasonable amount of pressure as I go through, then I know it'll be cutting. Once you're through, then all you need to do is check, and it's cut through very nicely. I'm going to want to open up the panel, and I want each panel to look the same. So I'm using this unbranded D-shape die to just overlap the picture. And I'm not going to be cutting all of it out. I'm going to be doing some partial die cutting again. But I'm going to do the partial die cutting slightly differently this time, because I'm only going to be cutting down to about here just to get the uppermost shape. And so if I turn that sideways, which you won't see quite so well, I can show you this other method of partial die cutting just using your plate. And the way I do that is to slot the plate through and just have it ending where you want your die to finish cutting. And then when you press, the top part will cut, but the bottom part won't. Once you've run it through the big shot, this is what the back is going to look like. And then just take off your die. And then using scissors, you cut out the rest to get that first panel that you want. So once you've cut out, this is your front panel, which I think looks very effective. Now I want to make the second panel next, and this is why I work forward back, because you want to get the height right. So if you put them in like that, just one on top of the other, and then I'm going to be using the other side of this Edgeables die with the smaller snowman, and I'm going to be having it behind. So it's going to come in from this side and go, but I don't want it to be much higher. So actually if I line it up with the bottom of the paper, it should be just about the right height. So I'll get rid of that first panel, and I'm going to do exactly the same as before. I'm cutting out this side this time, and I'm just lining that up. Just stick it in place. And then this time I need a slightly bigger square. So I've got, again from my card stack, that's a single one. I think this one is a 9 centimetre square card. So I'm just going to go, as I say, I want to cover those 4 trees. So I'm just going to line it up like that and stick this one in place again. So I'll just take the low tack tape off that one. Stick this one in place. Then just gradually build up that card stack. So I've got another set here. And if you run out of the same size square, then you can put in different shapes. As long as the bit that's covered, once you're above, obviously that's not going to press on the bottom one. So the fact it's longer doesn't matter. It's the width that's important, the depth even. And then once again, I will put the cover on. Now, I have just remembered that I did have to put the number 2 tab back in on my big shot to cut out the D shape with the other method of partial die cutting. So I'll just slot that out again, put that on the base plate, and then I will cover this with my curvy old plate. And there again you have your Christmas scene. So this will be cut out, but once again I need to use my D-shaped ring to do a little bit more partial die cutting, but I'm going to use exactly the same method as before. So with panel number 2 complete, it's going to look something like that. And then the panel that's going to be in front of it is the one that I used earlier. And so I'm starting to build up my scene. For the third panel, I'm going to have the village scene, And the best way of working out where to put it is to get the second one that you've just done and slot in where you want it to be. Again, I'm going to partial die cut, but I'm going to partial die cut using the simple method. So I'm just sticking this in place. Of course, I do have to turn this round. So it's facing that way. And then when I slide my top plate on, I'm just making sure it comes to rest just at the edge of the village so that doesn't cut through. So this is converting a standard die into a partial die. Then I will run it through the big shot. Once again, you get a partial die cut of your village, and I am also going to be using the D-ring once again to get my side pieces and the top. So once you've cut away the excess, you've got your third panel that looks like that. And then all you've left to do is the fourth panel, and for that I just cut out a rectangle. And I chose a rectangle because I want to have Father Christmas flying through the sky, and I want to make sure there are sufficient pillars at the side for me to attach him to, and I will just cut down the reindeer so that it fits nicely and stick that in place. So once your 4 panels are complete, you're going to have the biggest of the snowmen, but quite a short little scene in the front. You've got your row of trees and your little snowman and the fence behind. Then you've got the village with its church at the back. And then finally, this will be the rear one, which is Father Christmas flying through the sky. Now the fun bit is putting it together. And first of all these panels are scored 1 centimetre in from the edge, and they need to be folded so they can fit inside this frame, which again is 9 centimetres scored, so each side is 9 centimetres. When you're sticking onto your main frame, I usually just place it on the cutting board and line it up so that it is square, because each of these is a centimetre depth, and the front is going to be here facing this way, and I want each of them to be a centimetre apart, leaving a 5 centimetre gap, which will be at the back for the tea light. So basically the way they're going to be is, if you take the front panel, you line it up, making sure that you're right at the edge and that you're nice and square. And stick it down either using double-sided tape or PVA glue or universal glue, whatever you care to use. And then once that one is in place, you then line up the next one, and you've got the lines to make sure that you are square. So when you've stuck all 4 in place, you've got a centimetre between each of them, and you've got 5 centimetres at the back, and this will be where you'll be putting your tea light. So you have to do things in the reverse order for the other side, because it obviously is slightly trickier. So the best way to do that is to again line up your card and do the back, go from back to front. Line this up 4 centimetres from the front using your lines as marking. Stick that one in place because these are free to move, so you can easily get them out of the way while you're doing it. Just make sure you're straight, and then just follow through until you reach the front. Having made your scene, the last thing you need to do is actually make the cover to make this the proper box. And in order to do that, you need another piece of A4 card, and this time you cut it out 9 centimetres wide as you did with the previous one, but you leave it the full A4 length. You then score it literally just over 1 centimetre from one edge, then at 9 centimetres, then at another 9 centimetres, and then again 9 centimetres, leaving you just over 1 centimetre at this far edge. and you will be folding these up to make the cover on 3 sides for this cube. You also need to cut out a 9 centimetre square because that will form the bottom of the cube. Now, in order to be able to get your tea light in, you need to have some access, and I will be cutting out a D shape from the base piece. I also feel that it's nice during the daytime to have the light streaming into this cube as much as possible, and also at night it's quite lovely to have a bit of light coming out for it. So I've taken the inside of a frame die, and I am going to cut that out in my center panel, which will be the roof of my cube. Once you've cut out any shape that you want, and of course that's entirely your choice, in the middle, but I think it just adds to it, and you've also cut out the D shape in your base plate, you're ready to do the final little bit of sticking. All you need to do is, you're going to be draping that over the top of the cube. Those extra bit folds tuck in under the bottom, and you just need to stick the sides in place, and a little bit of glue on the base along here is worth doing. Once you've stuck that in place, then you put your base plate on, sticking that in place, making sure that the hole for your tea light is in the back large section and not at the front. So once you've done all your sticking, you're left with a beautiful cube that makes a really lovely decoration during the day and also will light up at night. And the bottom, you've got your D-shaped hole that you can just get a tea light and pop it in. I don't think it'll show up much now, but it is going to look gorgeous when it gets done.